Hi, my name is Michael Bean, and this is your free lesson for myfreeactingclass.com. I am an acting teacher. I run a school called Biz Studio, and I also teach adults. So I've been teaching for about 18 years now, and you can find all of my information just by following some of the links at the myfreeactingclass.com. You can also find links to all of our past lessons there, so go check it out. Today is Monday, so we're doing self-tape review. I have two fantastic self-tapes. Please keep them coming. If you are able to attend the lessons, you can submit the self-tapes. If you are not able to attend the lessons, you can submit self-tapes. I am really pleased to see them. And today we've got one from Mara, who's a young actor who attends our sessions regularly. That I'm excited to show you, and another one from Melissa, one of our keeners, in Seattle, who keeps submitting self-tapes, and one of the things that I hope those of you who are watching regularly see in it is the progression just in the 6 weeks that she's been doing these and sending them. I think this will be maybe the third of her self-tapes that we've watched here, and already I can definitely see the improvement, and that is a very short span of time. So that's particularly exciting to me, and because it feels like evidence for exactly the thing that I want you to gather evidence for, which is that if you just keep at this, if you just find ways to put in the time and put in the repetition, and maintain your interest and keep looking at it in ways that fire you up, that your work is likely to get substantially better. So let's take a look at, excellent. Let's take a look at this first self-tape. So this is Mara, and I don't think I've actually asked how old Mara is, but this is a tape for a Disney audition that she did and that she sent my way. So Mara Schneider, Disney, callback.
I thought I knew my folks, till they took me to Disney World. Did someone forget to tell them their parents? Dad's going around in Mickey Mouse ears, Mom's running around like a techno wizard, and now they want to race me down this snowy mountain? Could it get any more embarrassing? Don't tell them I said that. I'm just glad they had just as much fun as I did at Disney World.
Okay, so that's the whole thing. It's short. Mara qualified in her message. Yeah, I know there's too much space over my head. I couldn't get it to be less. There's all this space over my head. So she knows that there is, a very modest, technical problem with this, which is that, our eyes are going to be drawn to this massive blank space over her head. Now, in terms of what's working here, we've got a nice neutral backdrop. She's very visible. The colors are good, right? Like she's against sort of like a soft or neutral blue. She's well lit. There's maybe a little bit too much light on this one side of her face. I think if we zoomed in, can we do that here? Maybe. Let's see. Nope. You'd see that she doesn't have as much eyelight as she could. One of the things that I'm going to pull up is I dragged and dropped it into iMovie and very quickly cropped it. And so I'm not an iMovie expert, not something that I do in any kind of sophisticated way, but I was walking a parent through this recently, that these programs can initially be intimidating because they just have so many functions, right? They are literally made for people who are making movies at home, and they have as much functionality as the folks making them can give them. But probably your computer already has onboard software, the iMovie or Windows Movie Maker, if you're in one of those operating systems. I know that there are apps and even free apps that you can download on your phone that will let you do simple editing of videos directly on your phone. You also can probably get in there and edit them a little bit, and it's just worth playing around because the kind of editing that we need to do as actors is very, very simple. We do not need to do complex editing of our videos, and it doesn't take a lot to make something present in a better way. So let me show you what.
I thought I knew my folks, till they took me to Disney World. Did someone forget
I have no idea what happened there. I'm so sorry. um, the So I exported it.
I thought I knew my folks.
Oof, and it is playing at like double speed somehow. Oh, there we go. Normal speed. So here's Mara's tape, just with
I thought I knew my.
the top cut off, right? So now we can see more detail. And now you can see what I mean. How this, like, one side of her face is lit, and there could be more eyelight here.
Folks, till they took me to Disney World. Did someone forget to tell them their parents? Dad's going around in Mickey Mouse ears, Mom's running around like a techno wizard, and now they want to race me down this snowy mountain? Could it get any more embarrassing? Don't tell them I said that. I'm just glad they had just as much fun as I did.
Okay, right. So I put a fade in and a fade out, which is what I would normally do if I was doing my own audition tape. And you can see that you can just see her better. Now, the beautiful thing about this, right? So her eyeline, in this case, is directly to camera, which is what you'd want to do with something like this, right? It's a commercial, like she is talking directly to the audience. If it was film and TV, the line between her eyes and what she was looking at would be just slightly off to one side or the other side. But in this case, she is talking directly to the people at home, and so her eyeline directly at the camera is really solid. There's not a lot of extraneous movement happening here. She's really expressive, right? I mean, it's Disney. That's a Disney commercial, so she's giving it lots of intention. She's really playing with it energetically. And yeah, there are things about the tape that could be technically better. But the beautiful thing about this tape is this tape got her a callback. This, based on that first tape with like the enormous space above her head, they were like, "You're great. Can you fly to LA immediately for a callback?" And she had to turn down the callback because she wasn't able to fly to LA right away. But I think it's a fantastic example that your tapes do not have to be perfect, right? That just because you are showing up for this lesson where I'm talking about technical things and saying, yeah, like, look, if you want to clean up the technical things, here's what the cleanest version of that looks like. That is not required, for you to get people interested in you, for you to get people interested in your work. And so thank you so much to Mara for sharing that tape, because I think it's really useful to see that skilled professional work is still not perfect. But the kind of work that makes people go like, that person's interesting. I want to see more of them. In fact, maybe we should hire them. Still not perfect. That actors like to flog themselves with the idea that if only they had done their audition perfectly, then casting would be interested. Then they would book all the jobs. And there are just too many pieces that are outside of our control for that to be ever something that you can know. Like, what we can focus on is doing skilled work. And that's why you're here. That's why you're showing up for the lessons, and whatever practice you're doing in your life. So now let's take a look at Melissa's tape. She sent a couple of YouTube links again, so I'm just going to cue that one up. Here it is.
Statistics. The average person is married twice, and the average marriage has around 2 children, and the average child of those marriages spends an average of 4 hours watching 2 to 4 television programs on 5 nights a week.
So if you remember the commercial auditions that Melissa, that I was reviewing of Melissa's, like even 4 to 6 weeks ago, her accent here is so much clearer. Right? Like, her voice is so much clearer. This sounds a lot more, like this is just the way that she talks. And you can still hear little bits of it. You can still hear that she's working on it, but is nowhere near as strong. Now there's much more attention on her. And what we've got here is that eye line that is just very slightly off to one side of the camera lens. Perfect. You've got a really nice clear eye light, right, which is this light reflecting her eyes. We've got a medium close-up, right, so it's horizontal and not vertical, which I know Mara will watch and say, I told you I couldn't change it, but just, horizontal. Turn the phone horizontal is the easiest way around that. So it's the top of her head. There's no space above her head, and it goes down to just below her armpits. So it's just the right framing. There's a neutral backdrop, right? There's so much right about the way that this is set up. Technically, this says that somebody's paying attention, and that they know professionally how to set up a tape to make it look good. One of the interesting things that Melissa did, she did 2 takes. She uploaded them separately, and so I want to show you this one again, just the very beginning.
Crime statistics. The average person is married twice, and the average marriage has around 2 children.
And then here's her second take.
Crime statistics. The average person is married twice, and the average marriage has around 2 children. And the average child of those marriages spends an average of 4 hours watching 2.
Right. So the pacing is slightly different. Her delivery is slightly different. One of the things that I wanted to use this as an example of is if you are going to include 2 different takes, it is best that they be really substantively different. Watching this, as a decision maker, if I was like, let's say that she was auditioning for this role, and to be fair, I'm speculating. I have not been a casting director. I've not been a producer or director. But what I will say is, as an acting teacher, where I can speak, that these 2 takes are very, very similar. And what I've heard from decision makers is that if they get 2 takes and the 2 takes are very, very similar, then they often make a story, or they worry that then the actor will not be able to take direction. Right. So if you're going to submit a second take, I think it's important, obviously, that it be skilled acting, that it showcase you well, that it show off your understanding of the story, and that it show off your ability to share yourself. But that particularly if you're including multiple takes, that it's important to include. It's important that those 2 takes represent like different, either very significantly different parts of yourself, or significantly different pieces of the story. And so I don't know, like as though maybe one of these, and I can see the intention, but if I had Melissa in class, I would be like, okay, great. That thing that you're doing that like you can see because you've paid so much close attention to this, take it and just risk turning it all the way up. And often that's a metaphor that I will use in class that I don't think I've shared here. If you think of a soundboard, which, okay, I was, talk about, another like privileged analogy, but there it is. So it's like if you've got audio that you're dealing with, so if you are at an event and you look at the soundboard, it's got all those little dials on it, each of which controls like a different part of the sound that you're hearing. So if you can think of approaching your scene like that, is that when actors first start off, they have a single dial. They're like, right, my character is mad, and they do the whole scene mad, and everything's mad. It's like, okay, great. Like what you did was you just took the color red and you painted the entire scene red. Okay, and now we're going to go through the scene and we're going to play with different shades of red. Maybe that's the next thing to do. Okay, and then once you can do that, then we're going to keep the red. We're not going to turn the red all the way out, but now we're going to bring in those other dials as well. We're going to bring in those other colors as well. Like we're going to paint, as full and realistic and interesting a picture as possible. And yes, hopefully there are pops of strong color in there because that's going to make it an interesting story. But what we're not going to do is take one dial, turn it all the way up, and turn everything down to 0. And so with a performance like Melissa's, where I know that she has thought about the different pieces that go into this, what I would normally say is, okay, great. So for this take, as long as we're exploring it or doing multiple takes, take one of those dials and turn it all the way up. You're going to leave all the rest of the dials there, but you're going to take that one and turn it all the way up on purpose. Right. So if you're going to do an authoritative take, like I know what I'm talking about, like I'm the professor, I'm the boss, right? Go further with it, at least for exploration, at least for play, because you can always watch it and dial it back. And then if you're going to do one that's sort of warm and concerned and like, like what are we teaching kids these days? And like, this is a problem, like we've got to really reach people. Again, take that dial and turn it all the way up. so that if there are two takes, they can see both of those things. So that would be my advice to Melissa on this. Now the other thing that I will share, and I won't share the text of the email that I sent, or that she sent rather, but but she did say basically like, is this work not good work? That like she was worried about it. I think because she said that she had sent these monologues to an agent, and then the agent said no to representing her. And now, the in this case, like that is like that feel the story I made based on that email was that like that felt like information, that she was like, okay, I did these monologues, I showed them to an agent, the agent said no. Like, not just that means that I'm not a good fit for the agent, or they're not interested in working with somebody with a little bit of an accent, or they're not taking anybody, but they decided to see my tape because they wanted they didn't want to pass by any potential opportunity, which often is the case with agents and decision makers. They're like, yeah, no, we're pretty sure who we want, but just in case it's something amazing, we don't want to that fits exactly what we need, and we don't want to pass by a chance on it. That there are lots of reasons that Melissa simply doesn't have access to, and so I think that she does the absolutely normal human thing, which I think I do in this situation as well. But I want to sort of offer support, by getting in there and saying, I don't think there's enough information to decide, that this tape is evidence, of a lack of skill, and particularly for those of you who've seen the commercials that she did even 6 weeks ago, there's significant progress there, and that's got to be the thing that is happening. Or that we're tracking, is the drive, and the commitment, and that incremental progress that is what it really looks like to learn a professional skill. And it's easy instead to use as our measurement, or as what we are tracking, success. Like, do I or do I not have success, by the like really easy objective standard. And I've talked about this in class before, but I think that it's as if the only thing that matters is a gold medal. That for any given part, there are 1,000 actors who would like to get an audition. There are 50 who do get an audition. There are like 3 who get shortlisted, and or get a callback, or 5. Yeah. And then there's one person who books it. And so the equivalent is like, here's everybody who wants to compete. Here's everybody who does get to compete. Like, here's the people who all, place, gold, silver, bronze. But then like the gold medal's the only one that we track. And so that reminder of like just being in the competition, like, is a step, is progress. That if we track based on like, am I booking or am I not booking? That, like, of course, that's what we're working towards, is being competitive at that level. But I don't think that bookings, or not, is enough in our control to be a useful metric. I know actors who have given performances that they thought were very substandard, who booked the roles. I've known actors who are extremely skilled, who auditioned very, very regularly for years without booking. And so I've been thinking a lot about metrics and what does it mean to set meaningful goals for ourselves as actors. And so guess what? There's definitely another goal setting and deliberate practice lesson in our future, because I've taken some of the noodling that happened over the last couple of weeks and the research that I showed you, and I'm trying to distill it down into something that is simple, straightforward, concrete, that I can practice using with myself, but also that I can offer to you and to the other students at my school. So those are our to audition tapes for today. We can watch a little bit more of Melissa since we've got a little bit more time.
And the average child of those marriages spends an average of 4 hours watching 2 to 4 television programs on 5 nights a week. More than half of that time is spent watching violent crime. And of the 12 courtroom dramas currently out there dominating the network's primetime slots, they watch 276 variations of criminal activities.
And so one of the things that that I'm still seeing in this tape is some like a little bit of effortful processing, or at least that's the story that I make out of it. Is those little like and those small hesitations might be as simple as, again, the fact that Melissa's putting a lot of her attention on American accent right now, which I think really is the best use of her energy. But as long as there's effortful processing happening, it gets difficult to get to that place of believability. Today, I had a session with a friend of mine who is a very gifted theater actor and teacher, and does a lot of Shakespeare. Oh, Carrie Sandemersky, she came in for a lesson a couple of months ago. I don't know if either of you caught it, but she's wonderful. And we were talking about how there's, on a certain level, just repetition is necessary to get to that point where it is possible to both do the text, be inside it, make sense of it, and also think about something else at the same time. And one of the things that I'm learning in my own practice right now, because I only really just started actually tracking numbers to see how many times does it take me going through a piece of text before I have that extra brain space. And it looks like it's between 40 and 50 times for me, which tracks pretty well to what a lot of professional actors that I've talked to say, where they're like, yeah, it's about an hour a page. Which if you get 9 pages the night before a big audition, which still does happen sometimes, the likelihood that you're going to be able to put in all 9 hours, okay, maybe that's slow, but I know actors who still will. We're like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going out tonight, and I guess I'm just going to like put all of my time and attention on getting these lines. And so for me personally, by about 25 times through, like I can do it. But if I really want to be able to, like, if I really want to be able to make a sandwich, or wash dishes, or sort of go through some piece of my day that requires a little bit of my attention while also running my lines, while also just like knowing the scene, it's somewhere between 40 and 50 times. And I think that for almost all of those sort of like second order skills, where it's like, am I blinking too much? Where are my eyes focusing? Where am I putting my intention? Or am I bringing in that extra layer of storytelling or imagery? That almost all of those skills only become available when you've so fully and completely internalized the text in a way that you can make sense out of it, that you can also think about that next thing at the same time. And so that's on my mind today, and it feels relevant, watching Melissa's video, which, like, thank you so much to Melissa for being brave and continuing to send these videos so that we can look at. But you can see what I mean. There's those micro hesitations, and they're very small, but they still are there. And I think that they are significant in terms of impacting the believability of it. And I definitely know actors who can like be a total mess and just kind of like in a just sort of hash through it. Improv classes can be good for that, where you're like, yeah, I don't know my lines, but like I'm going to present with ease. I got half of it wrong and I made up half the lines. I think that I've seen that be a useful skill, but I would consider that cross-training. I think that in terms of approaching text, and you heard Annalise and Erin, the casting directors we had last Thursday, talk about like how important it is to actually use the words, to get the words right, to get the story right. That putting in that inconvenient extra level of practice to get the lines really down is um, for almost all of the film and TV projects out there is going to be, if not necessary, at least highly useful, in my opinion. Okay, that's our 4:30. Thanks for showing up for today's lesson. This is remember that you can find videos from all of our past lessons. I'm going to try and get last week's casting director lesson uploaded today. You can find the link to the YouTube channel at myfreeactingclass.com. And thanks for showing up and joining us. I'll be back tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday. Bye.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you.